Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Better Horses. I'm Ed Adams.
And I'm Susie Arbo.
And you know, we have our horses pointed to Columbia, Missouri for a very special reason.
That's right, Ed. The Missouri Conference of Agriculture, hosted by our very own Governor Mike Kehoe, rancher and cattleman, took place.
And you know, Mike Kehoe is a first-generation farmer, so he knows what it's like to deal with high input costs. And he also knows what it's like to deal with dry Missouri summers. And the Director of Agriculture, Chinn, not only was instrumental in putting the event together, but she rolled out the red carpet.
The energy was exciting, and the conference really highlighted the economic impact and outlook for our state of Missouri.
You know, it's a $93 billion industry employing 500,000 Missourians.
Let's take a look at the highlights.
And we begin with the Director of the Missouri Department of Agriculture, Chinn, as she talks about new innovative ways agriculture can find new opportunities.
And next, Bryon Wiegand, Division Director of Animal Science from the University of Missouri, talks about the strong demand of the animal side of Missouri agriculture.
I'm Mallory Rahe.
And Susie, I'm really excited to hear from Mallory Rahe. She's a professor at the University of Missouri, and she's going to talk about innovative ways people can get into specialty crops.
Then, our team caught up with Ben Brown, Senior Research Associate and Extension Agriculture Economist, where he covers the importance of row crop in the state of Missouri.
So sit back on that saddle as we show you why Missouri agriculture is just as strong as ever.
Follow us on social media and watch us on RFD-TV and the Cowboy Channel for more Better Horses.
We'll be right back.
The Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University announces a new service for horses. Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. The Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
Chinn, Director of the Missouri Department of Agriculture, and today we are in Columbia, Missouri for the Missouri Governor's Conference on Agriculture. You know, I think the biggest benefit to having a conference like this is it gives our farming community the opportunity to get together, talk about the year that they've had, talk about the opportunities that are going to be out there for next year, and learn from each other and learn about what new opportunities will be there for them to achieve. Some of the challenges that our agriculture industry has had to deal with, on the row crop side, we've had multiple years of drought, and that's been a real challenge for us. We've had market fluctuations as well. On the livestock side, the drought has impacted us as well. We've had high feed costs, high input costs. That's been all across agriculture as a whole. It hasn't discriminated between row crop and livestock. We're all dealing with higher input costs, and that means our break-even has risen. And so we have to find new ways to add value to the products that we're raising to try and make it to that break-even level. Well, Missouri agriculture is very diversified. In our boot hill, we have cotton, rice, peanuts. You know, the list just goes on and on. We also have corn and soybeans down there. We have peaches, we have tomatoes. But as you work your way up to the north, you see more of our traditional agriculture products. So you see the livestock, you see the traditional row crops of corn, wheat, and soybeans. For our Missouri farmers that are diversified, they've been able to weather these tough years a little bit better than those who are only specialized on row crop or livestock only. So diversification the last couple of years seems to be key to weathering some of these rough patches that we've been in the ag economy. So we're really excited at the Missouri State Fair. We are building a brand new livestock arena. It's going to be the largest in the state of Missouri, climate controlled. We're going to be able to hold events there from conferences to rodeos to horse shows, cattle shows. The list goes on, sporting events. We're really excited about this new opportunity, not just for the state fair, but for the state of Missouri as well, because it's going to bring more visitors to our state, and they're going to get to see what the Show Me State is all about. You know, all of the agriculture departments across the United States have one thing in common. We want to work very hard to represent the farmers and ranchers in our state. While my challenges may be a little bit different from some of the challenges on a state on the east or the west coast, at the end of the day, all of our farmers are facing market volatility as well as increased input costs. And so we at the Department of Agriculture, no matter what state you're in, we want to make sure that we're here to support the farming community and help them make it through to the other side when the markets are better and we don't have a drought or a flood situation in the state. I'm Chris Chinn, Director at the Missouri Department of Agriculture, and you're watching Better Horses.
You're watching Better Horses, raising your horse experience.
In 1956, the Pinto Horse Association of America was formed to welcome all types of equines and maintain their show records and pedigrees. PTHA currently has over 88,000 members with 157,000 registered pintos. There are currently 3 separate registries: the Color Registry, the Solid Registry, and the Long Ear Registry. We welcome all levels of competition within a family-friendly environment. Become a member, register, and add value to your horse. For more information, check out the website pintoworld.com.
So I'm Bryon Wiegand. I'm the Division Director in Animal Science at the University of Missouri. Right now we're at the Governor's Conference on Agriculture here in Columbia, Missouri, talking ag. So in our division of animal science, most of our students are coming to us and they're thinking veterinary medicine. Not necessarily food animal veterinary medicine, but often they may go into companion animal, they may go into exotic, but pre-vet is a really, it's a strong draw for students that think they have an animal interest. In terms of veterinary demand, right now there's the companion animal side is really strong. If we think about what consumers are doing, we have more pets, we probably spend more money on our pets. And in the companion animal space, that's pretty important, dogs, cats. But we even have a strong demand in the food animal side as well. And in rural practice, there's probably diminishing numbers in certain parts of the country to meet that demand, whether that be for equine, stock horses or other, or in the food animal space as well. The students aren't finding those programs quite as easily in terms of the food animal practicing. Regarding the equine veterinary business, the questions are often about, is there money in that? Is it a lucrative profession to go to? I think there's always has been and there always will be money tied to the equine business. Something to keep in mind though, it's hard work. The horse is a large animal and it's physically demanding as well. So I think there's still going to be demand for that, but it's an industry that ebbs and flows just a bit, I believe, for those people looking into equine as a profession. With regard to gender, with students coming to us, we've seen a really precipitous shift into more female students coming into animal sciences especially. I think that's partly driven by a really strong technical education component out in the country. We have a lot of jobs that pay very well in the blue-collar trades, and those jobs are more technical in nature every day. So if we look at the competition in education, some of our technical schools are catering to those male students that may work, for example, in the pipelining or the construction industry. But we also are noticing that as the economy gets squeezed a little bit, sometimes those male students will find their way back to us in our typical four-year programs. And right now, to give you an example, we are probably 85% female students in our animal science program at the University of Missouri. And that's not just us here in the Midwest. If I talk to department heads around the country in the land grant system, this is a similar demographic shift that we've seen really in the last 20 years. So biosecurity is critically important, and we think about it often in terms of animals that are in other industries, the swine industry, the poultry industry, where we have a lot of heavy confinement in the biosecurity space. But now, as we think about New World screwworm as a possible threat in South America or Central America, it's influencing a lot of our market decisions even. All right, we have the southern border closed to incoming Mexican feeder cattle, so we have a lot more vigilance with regard to those potential, that's a parasite or maybe other foreign animal disease. We're spending a lot more time and effort, both at the university level, partnerships with state veterinarians, with federal veterinarians, trying to understand where we can mitigate that risk, because we have a very high valued product, and losing any percentage of those animals could be devastating to the industry. The cattle supply, we're at the smallest supply that we've been at in a long time. We also have record demand. So both sides of the equation is kind of an interesting place to be. But in terms of supply, if we look at can we grow that, the market right now is telling us to feed cattle, and the beef production is the big piece. So we've seen a little bit of reticence in retaining heifers to grow the female supply in that. And we're also making really hard culling decisions on the cows, because a cow that goes into just a little bit of feed time has a really great value to the food chain as well. So can we get to the supplies? And if we look at 2019 as the benchmark, right, we had a really high cattle supply at the time. And then as we got into COVID, we ended up with a kind of precipitous drop in that. There are a lot of factors that are going to drive that, though. I think if we talk to our friends in ag economics, they'd say, yes, we can go there. The market's going to have to indicate that we need to grow that female side of the equation. And right now, demand for beef is so high, we're probably not going to lean into that if we're a producer, especially an aging producer structure. So the row crop business has traditionally been a pretty decent place to live. We go back to April of 2022, we had record high corn prices. Soybean prices were excellent, right? We were driving export markets, that was supporting us. Today, we've cut the corn price in half, soybeans followed. The real challenge that I see in that space, and I come from a diversified ag background, I think sometimes being in the diversified space is what saves us. But if we're largely in that row crop operation, right now our inputs have not gone down to any great degree. If anything, inputs have gone up, from the cost of machinery to fertilizer inputs, seed genetics. So right now to be in the row crop business is quite challenging, even if you put in some risk mitigation in terms of insurance products and other protections to try to take care of your margin as best you can.
Hey Wranglers, we got a lot more better horses coming your way right after this word.
They've given everything for us. Now it's their turn to rediscover their strength. At War Horses for Veterans, we offer more than healing. We offer a chance for veterans and first responders to rebuild their lives through the power of horse therapy, helping participants overcome trauma, reduce anxiety, and find peace in ways traditional therapies often cannot. They stood for us. Now let's stand with them. Visit warhorsesforveterans.org.
It's time to go with United Mosquito and Fly Control's premier fly system for fly control in your barn, providing relief for horses from the stress of fighting flies, and also makes the barn more pleasant for everyone in the barn. Easy, effective, and safe. With United Mosquito and Fly Control, we provide a full service. You as the barn owner don't have to do anything. We go everywhere and take care of everything with our friendly fast service. Call today at 913-558-3814 or email Paul at unitedmosquito.com.
The Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University announces a new service for horses. Hi, I'm Dr. Dylan Luter, a specialist in equine performance medicine. Our new service focuses on lameness diagnosis, advanced imaging, physical therapy, and regenerative medicine for horses with injuries preventing them from performing at their best. We can treat a variety of conditions and design a customized rehabilitation plan to meet the needs of each client and their horse. Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
I'm Mallory Rahe, an Associate Extension Professor at the University of Missouri, right here in Columbia, Missouri. We're at the Governor's Conference on Agriculture, and I'm here to talk about supporting value-added agricultural producers and the work we do at the university. So we see a tremendous amount of innovation around small, custom, specialty crop agriculture. A lot of people enter this space for a variety of reasons. They're looking to diversify. They have a need to bring on additional members, generations into the farm business. For people who are interested in agriculture and want to get started, specialty crops, small niche farming, there's a lot of lower capital ways to enter this business. And it's food production, food that you can see that comes right to your table. So there's a really strong emotional connection to this idea that I want to grow high quality food for myself, for my family, for my community. And there's just a ton of interest in entering this space in agriculture right now. But it's not without its challenges. You can really start a small farm, specialized agriculture on a very small scale. We have seen a lot of growth and innovation and willingness to change at the federal level as well, where the USDA Farm Service Agency will now issue farm numbers for completely indoor operations. So we have some producers that have a farm and it's actually a room of their house dedicated to growing microgreens in a completely controlled agriculture space. And you can turn over a fairly decent amount of income with a very specific microgreen production where you're harvesting 8 days after you're seeding that crop. So there's a lot of examples in this space of how people enter specialty agriculture and small custom farms. You may not know it, but Missouri is the 5th largest goat producer. And so we have a lot of people that are diversifying their pasture space with small ruminants. We also are the leading producer of elderberries. We grow over 50% of the US elderberry crop right here in Missouri. And a ton of people enter this space wanting to create a value-added product that has really specific health benefits. Elderberries are a great example of that. We're seeing a lot of interest in indoor mushroom production. Record high egg prices drove a ton of interest in mobile poultry, pasture-raised poultry. So we have these mobile units where you hook a pickup truck up to a chicken coop on wheels, and you drag it around to different parts in the pasture, and those chickens forage for insects. And it can be organic if you choose to certify it that way, or it can just be this relationship you have with your consumers where you're very transparent. This is who I am, this is where these chickens were raised and how they were raised. No, I don't have an organic label, but let me tell you more about exactly how this product was raised. And that is something that really resonates with today's consumers, having that transparency and authenticity around their food product. There are so many opportunities to really add value to a farm. And when we think about transparency and authenticity, our farm families can overlook the value of being a farm and the value of good land stewardship. People are willing to pay for that. They value farm existence, and they value the ability to bring their family out and experience that for an afternoon. They don't want the hardships. They don't want to be breaking ice in the wintertime, but they're very happy to have an authentic experience. There's a tremendous amount of innovation happening in agritourism for farms that are really saying, this is who we are, this is our point of view, and the point of view that we want to share with the public. And that can be hands-on work days, that can be make and take workshops, farm to table dinners, and also just that full family experience of coming out to a farm, getting hands-on. You pick orchards, you pick flowers. The pandemic really drove a lot of interest in, okay, we can't be indoors, we can't be all together. Let's not forget about all the great outdoor opportunities that there are. And there were a ton of entrepreneurs across Missouri and the country that were saying, yes, we're ready for this. It's not without its risks. You got to make sure you've got liability insurance in place, and you've got to be prepared to take care of the public. And this is a skill set that farmers are not always best suited. And it's why we like to see kind of a full family effort, because if one person's really good working in the field, hopefully there's another person in the family that actually likes to talk to people, because that's a skill set that's really important to making a lot of these operations function. I'm Mallory Rahe, Associate Extension Professor at the University of Missouri in Columbia, Missouri. Today we're at the Governor's Conference on Agriculture discussing value-added opportunities. Thank you for watching Better Horses.
Hey cowboys and cowgirls, don't go anywhere. We have more Better Horses coming your way.
At Kansas State University Veterinary Health Center, we provide both specialty and primary health care services for your livestock. Hi, I am Sean Hoosier, an on-farm food animal veterinarian at K-State. Whether your farm is large or small, we have the resources and personnel to respond and care for individual animals, herd health, or emergencies. Our team of experts can tailor herd health plans for your farm and find solutions to any existing challenges. The Veterinary Health Center, to discover, to teach, to heal.
My name is Ben Brown. I'm an Extension Agriculture Economist at the University of Missouri. Today we're at the Missouri Governor's Conference on Agriculture, and my primary role today is to talk about some of the impacts that we're seeing in the trade front as it relates to Missouri's commodities. Yeah, on the row crop side, we're dealing with a liquidity crunch. Multiple years of tight margins to even negative margins. This has been the combination of elevated input costs, some financial strain that also is related to the deterioration that we've seen in prices due to overproduction, and then challenges in the trade front with some of our largest partners.
When you're talking about the farmers and the trade challenges
that we face, because farmers don't deliver their product to an export market most of the time. There's some farmers on the coast that actually do, but here in the heart of the country, we're largely delivering to an end elevator that's going to turn it into feed for animals, or an ethanol plant that's going to turn it into biofuels. We do have a sizable export portfolio because of our connection to the Mississippi River and transporting product to New Orleans. But a lot of times producers are delivering to an elevator, and oftentimes that elevator is turning it into an end product. So when we think about input costs, they have remained elevated, largely due to some regulatory burdens, competition in the export front as well, tariffs on fertilizers that we bring into the United States. Here recently we got a couple of fertilizer products put on the list of critical minerals. There's hope that that'll help alleviate some of the burden that we've seen. We have seen some relief in other input cost categories, such as interest expense, and also in the fuel sector. However, those haven't made up for the higher costs that we've seen in other sectors. As it relates to the succession planning, as we think about the next generation of producers, we're entering into this period of time to where we are seeing some farms leave the industry. Now that could be farms that are being forced to leave because of financial pressures, but we're also seeing, at least on the livestock side, a substantial number of livestock operations are choosing to retire while cattle prices are high, and those cattle are moving to bigger farms. And so I think the dynamics and the training that'll happen for the next generation continues to evolve. It continues to be a dynamic industry, and looking for opportunities to build strategic partnerships and identify a strategic direction of the farm business remain absolutely critical. When it comes to entering production agriculture, we are a highly capital-intensive business. It takes a lot of capital and it takes a lot of resources to be able to get the foot in the door. And then even once you do, we're talking about relatively small returns for a period of time until you reach a certain scale, right? And so for most producers trying to enter, or many young people trying to enter, their pathway to production agriculture looks very different than the pathways that maybe the generations 2 to 3 times ago were doing, right? They had access to land, they were able to do something innovative in the industry. And I would say this time we're still looking at innovative practices, but we're also looking at different forms of agriculture. Maybe it's trying to find a value-added product that goes into a specific market. Maybe it's doing a management practice a very different way that has a buying base that can support that industry or that practice. But for the majority of it, we're looking at young producers that want to get in multiple different forms of revenue, not putting their revenue all in production ag or row crops, but a variety of revenue channels. So the University of Missouri, when we think about how we fit into the broader scale of production ag and just the Missouri agricultural industry, we're a land-grant institution, and so the state is our classroom. And I often say that there's a difference between teaching in the classroom and teaching out in the field. In the classroom, I get to assign the grades to the students. In the field, the producers that I'm talking to grade me. They decide if I pass or fail. And it's a wonderful dynamic to be able to interact with producers. But ultimately, I hope to do something that helps them in their business, right? Because ultimately, they are my stakeholders. And if I can train them or give them a little bit of a piece of advice that I've seen somewhere else in the state that's working, then ultimately, I hope that we have a more resilient and thriving industry for our state.
Hey, thank you for watching Better Horses. If you've missed any of our episodes, I invite you to check out betterhorses.com, where you can see all our shows.
Also follow us on Facebook for upcoming events. Check out our podcasts.
And don't forget our newspapers coming out 4 times a year.
You're gonna love this.